Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new era, or at least a new part of the era for the channel. We just passed our 1 year anniversary, which means it's time to do something that I've been wanting to do from the very beginning of the channel, and it kept getting pushed further and further down the line. We finally just said, let's just do the dang thing. A live show, a weekly live show. I love talking about box office. You see me do it on charts, and I'll do the rare video every once in a while when a big news story breaks. But I also like talking about the little things, the weird things, the wacky things, and really just catching up with people and the opportunity to have an interactive live show with all of you. So as part of phase 2 of building the channel, we're starting this live show weekly. We are starting out at this time period. Now, why did I pick this day and this time? Because there are so many people already that are doing live programming, and so many of them are my friends here on YouTube, and I was trying to navigate a time that I thought wouldn't step on anybody's toes. There's a cat that jumped on the desk. You're going to see this a lot. Welcome to the live show. But I wanted to make sure I didn't step on anyone's toes, and I wanted to avoid the schmodown. I wanted to avoid so many people that are already doing things in the morning and the afternoon. So I picked this time. I've already gotten feedback from people, and I know that there's a couple people I heard from on Patreon that said that doing it on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, that's when a lot of people are going to the movies. They're going to be going to, especially when movies start coming out again, they're going to be going to the Thursday night showings of movies. And to be honest, it's very likely, depending on how screenings work out, that I may be one of those people in the very near future. So we will commit to doing a live show. We may change the timing around. This was just the timing that worked for me right now, but we're going to be doing it every week live. We'll find the right time, but for right now, and I'll keep you updated if we make any changes. Do we have is the cat on screen? Can the cat?
No, but can I show them?
Yes. This is welcome. This is me. This is going to be another star of our show. That's Sir Pounce.
Right,
yeah, he's sitting by the computer. This is a very 1.0 version of the show. Eventually, it's going to have more bells and whistles. I'm going to have more pre-taped stuff. I'm going to have guests, etc. Today is very kind of an intimate one-on-one session here because, we're still getting our feet wet. We want to roll things in as we go. But one thing that we do want to do is to take your questions, etc. And so we have set up a system for that. And as with so many other shows, because we're running the channel, and as much as we love doing it, we also are trying to pay the bills, etc. So we're setting it up like so many other channels do with Streamlabs and Superchats. If you want to send in your Streamlab or your Super Chat, here's the information. The way we're going to do it is I'm going to have comment breaks during the show. So if you want to send in $5 Superlab or Super Chat or Streamlab at any point during the show, there's going to be breaks here and there where I stop and read what you're saying. If you want to read, now I don't have a robot like some of my other friends. I don't have a fancy robot that'll read your comments, but if you want your comment read now, if you want us to read your comment right away, then you can do a $15 plus Streamlab or Super Chat. As always, this is a show that's mainly about movies, mainly about entertainment. So we don't get into a lot of serious, real life political issues, etc., unless it directly involves entertainment, movies, etc. Also, movies, TV, schmodown, all the stuff that we love to talk about here on the channel. That's what this show is talking about. So, we're not just going to read any old thing. We really just make it about what we're talking about here, which is this crazy world of entertainment that we're all interacting with. So I welcome your comments. Like I said, we're going to stop during the show and read them. And if we get a $15 plus donation, then we'll stop the show and read the comment right then. But I have also prepared some topics to talk about. So we're going to jump right into that as people are watching, etc. And of course, what we really have to talk about first and foremost is the unfolding saga of the Academy Awards, which was really, I didn't think that the whole show was as much of a disaster as some people did, but the ending of this show really was a train wreck. It was the presentation, a very awkward Joaquin Phoenix comes out to present Best Actor, which was saved as the last award of the evening. There was obviously a gamble from the producers of the show that it was going to be a big emotional moment because Chadwick Boseman was the front runner, the leading contender for the Best Actor Academy Award. He did not win, and Anthony Hopkins was not present at the show, so the show just kind of ended. And of course, many people were asking about this unwelcome development with the Academy Awards. And we got a quote from an executive over at ABC. And this is, first of all, I love this guy's title because it is so 30 Rock. This is a quote from Rob Mills, who is the executive vice president of unscripted and alternative entertainment at Walt Disney Television. And he said, quote, "It was a calculated risk that I think still paid off because everybody was talking about it. Similarly, nobody wants the wrong envelope to happen like it did 3 years ago, but everyone was talking about it. I think some people thought maybe they missed some awards. Why is Best Picture earlier? What's happening? This is crazy. Almost like, how can this possibly happen? Best Picture has to end it." Some people were upset. Some people loved it. And that was really the point. There was no apathy. Okay. Basically, this is the executive version of saying there's no such thing as bad publicity, which is very wrong. That is a very wrong statement. I love that the kind of fallback position from the executive level is, well, some people, first of all, who was he talking about that loved it? Because I literally, unless it was like, his wife or his partner or like his assistant, I didn't hear anybody that was just like, that was a great idea to put the biggest award of the show not last. So I first of all, I doubt some people loved it, some people hated it. Most people just didn't really care for it. And then the whole thing just like, well, it happened and people talked about it, so that's good, right? No, that's not good. If I were to pull my pants down and take a dump on this desk right now, I promise you there would be no apathy about it, but it's a negative thing inherently. I know that there's a point at which as an executive, you have to kind of own the mistakes and toe the company line. But I think that so many more people would probably just be like, you're probably seeing cat encroachment here. I think that so many more people would probably just appreciate if an executive was like, hey, we thought it was going to be Chadwick and it wasn't. Whoops. I mean, that's really all you have to do. They were banking on the fact. Now, you could go into a whole other thing about the kind of cynical way of trying to exploit Chadwick Boseman and his memory and in this obvious kind of stunt that didn't quite go through. But executives are going to be executives. The other thing that came through a lot this week was Anthony Hopkins, who was the winner of the Academy Award for Best Actor. And as I said on Oscar night, his performance was so good in The Father. And it really is a shame that the year worked out such that they could not both win. Perhaps if The Father had come out, technically The Father did come out a year later. It's just that with the eligibility rules, everything got pushed late into the season. I wish that they both could have won the Academy Award. But this is the other thing that people have been talking about is that Anthony Hopkins did not accept the Academy Award. He was at home in Wales. He chose not to travel to the different satellite locations where they were doing awards because he's in his 80s. He's now the oldest living Academy Award winner, the oldest Academy Award winner of all time. And they didn't make the accommodation for him. So there was an article written by Kyle Buchanan at the New York Times who said, I'm told that Hopkins was at home in the Welsh countryside and had offered to accept via Zoom if his name was read, but the Oscars nixed that plan. To distinguish themselves from award shows like the Golden Globes that had been hobbled by video conferencing mishaps, Oscar producers encouraged nominees to attend the LA Gala in person or to make their way to satellite ceremonies that had been set up in a handful of European cities. Though his nominated co-star Olivia Colman attended the satellite show in London, Hopkins chose to stay put in Wales, and since the producer's edict was no Zoom allowed, the show instead ended anticlimactically. And this is again where I think that so much was kind of thrown onto Anthony Hopkins for some reason. You really have to look the producers dead in the eye when you talk about the ending of the Academy Awards, because, not only did they restructure it to do, and by the way, I was looking into it, there's only one other time in the televised history of the Academy Awards that Best Picture did not go last. That's when they were giving an honorary award to Charlie Chaplin, and they did that at the end of the show. But number one, who wins, and that he's there. So it's not the same thing. But you have, first of all, the decision to do this in the first place. You took a risk that didn't pay off, and then you have executives saying like, well, nobody didn't think anything about it, so it was a success. Yay. That's how you keep succeeding. And then you have people, when you look at the producers, saying if they had just allowed, and when they say Zoom, by the way, they don't mean like Anthony Hopkins is going to be on his iPhone in vertical video, although I've seen a lot of very entertaining videos of Anthony Hopkins using vertical video. I don't think that doesn't mean he's going to be like, oh, this is A-Hop, thank you. But that's Australian. I don't even know what's going on. Anyway, doesn't matter. He's not just going to be like in bed accepting the Academy Award. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty nice setup. It's not going to look bad. And you're literally, it's a contingency plan for one person. And I think that if you're the producer of the show, you either have to say, okay, if we're not going to do Zoom for Best Actor, then we just have to put it where it usually is. Or if you're going to put it last, you say, all right, we don't want to do Zoom, but let's do one line for acting legend Anthony Hopkins, just in case he wins. It's a failure all around. It really is. I don't know what else to say. It is an absolute failure all around. Another really just, this one's not even, it's just kind of sad. Chloé Zhao, who won 2 Academy Awards on Oscar night. She won for Best Director, an historic win for a female director, only the second woman to win Best Director, the first woman of color to win Best Director. She also won as a producer of Nomadland, which won Best Picture. A big deal, would have been a big deal in her native country of China, except that China state media, not only did they not cover the Academy Awards, but they also scrubbed references to her win from Chinese social media and the climate in China generally. Not free. That's how I would describe it. So Chloé Zhao, Chinese social media reportedly was heavily censored to scrub all references, direct references to Chloé Zhao and Nomadland's Oscar winners, Oscar Best Picture win. They also reportedly a lot of users resorted to using code words to talk about it. So a huge scrubbing of social media, and then state media was also reportedly ordered not to cover the Oscars at all. So there was no official reportage of Chloé Zhao's win. Social media was heavily redacted to keep Zhao's name out of the news. And why is this? Because you would think that as a country, if you have someone who was a native of China that goes into the Hollywood system and is so successful, you would want to trumpet that. Well, they actually were very openly proud of Chloé Zhao until a couple of things popped up. One of them was a 2013 interview that resurfaced as Nomadland was getting ready to be released in China, which it was not. They scrubbed that release after this controversy. It was a 2013 interview that resurfaced where she basically claimed that China was a place where there were lies everywhere. And that did not sit well with China. And then there was also outrage over a misquote she had said in an interview, in an Australian interview, where she said, she was quoted as saying the U.S. is now my country. She had said the U.S. is not my country. Whoops. That was a costly typo. I'll wrap this up in a second, but I've been told that we have a question. Corey Ross, thank you. $100 donation. Very much appreciated. First live stream. Let's go. I hope I wanted to pronounce all those O's because those were expensive O's. So thank you, Corey. Thank you so much for that donation. And we've got another one from Jodester. Jodester made a donation as well. Does she have a question, Mar? Yes. Let's see. Apparently you can't see me in the chat live text. Oh, I'm sorry, Jodester. I'm my wonderful producer, by the way, Mara, and also set designer, and everything else is handling all of the chats and stuff. But so I'm not in the live chat text, but Jodester says, I want you to know I support you and love the live show. Thank you, Jodester. Much appreciated, and thank you for that donation. So to wrap up with Chloé Zhao, this is her home country, and obviously she left it when she was a teenager. She went to the UK, and she's also made statements saying that she sort of had to reposition how she thought about things because China is a very restrictive flow of information in general. And she said that obviously China is not happy with that. The big thing, and we've been talking about this on charts for quite some time, we are reaching a real fracture point with China because they are, first of all, more and more aggressively pushing their own Hollywood version of Hollywood, their own movies. For a long time, it was about, us exporting movies to China. Now China is ramping up their own production facilities. They're pushing Chinese-made films. We covered a story on charts that, they're starting to almost mandate attendance at certain films that are praise as we get into the anniversary, that sort of praise the Communist Party in China, etc. But also at the same time, there are movies here now that the dynamic is almost flipped. Disney has a big movie coming out, Eternals, which is directed by Chloé Zhao. Obviously, a movie of that size, they're looking for a big return internationally. And right now, as we sit here today, the world's biggest movie market is China. So with all of this going down with Chloé Zhao, it's not only, first of all, do you have to talk about censorship, etc., which I think is a very serious thing, and it's not a new discussion, sadly, when it comes to China. But you also have to talk about the fact that will this affect the Chinese release of Eternals with Chloé Zhao at the helm, and how is that going to affect Disney's bottom line? Because so many times the right decision falls prey to the economic decision, and is this going to impact the hiring of people? I mean, if somebody says something that crosses China, are you going to have studios now that decide not to hire directors whose releases are going to be in jeopardy if they hire them? You don't want to think that that's the case, but studios almost always tend to follow the money. And so this is a huge thing now. There is a looming conflict between Hollywood and China as China flexes its muscles more and more, as it doesn't need the United States to have a thriving film industry anymore. And this is a huge conflict that is coming down, and this is just the latest chapter. But congratulations for me. I'm sure that Chloé Zhao has been waiting for my congratulations, but I give them heartily, because I think that she had, not only in this movie, but in other films, has done astonishing work, and deserves all the accolades that she has gotten for her work and her wins on Nomadland. I'm told we have some other donations. Sitham Productions donated $15. Thank you so much. The Oscars need a host badly. Do you think they'll bring one back finally? I think it'll really help lighten up the room like Ellen and Whoopi used to, from Nate. I think that if you get the right host, I get why people don't take the Oscar hosting job. It is the most thankless job in Hollywood, because if you do great, well, you're an entertainer, you're supposed to do great. And oh, by the way, nobody's there to see you, at least not in the room. It helps for the TV ratings. But if you bomb, you have bombed on what used to be one of the biggest stages on television. Now we're at like a quarter of the television audience from its heights, like not even all-time heights, but from its heights just 10 or so years ago. But it is a very thankless job. I actually thought that this show did okay without a host until we got into the latter half of the show. And, they said that they basically, the other thing that I was reading was they were worried that the show was going to run short. So they decided not to cut off anyone's acceptance speeches, which is why the speeches, were not played off, because they wanted to make sure they filled the 3 hours of the show. I think you did need somebody. It's almost like, I think that a good Oscar host needs to be a court jester that is there to poke fun of what's going on, to be a little self-effacing. I thought that Jimmy Kimmel did a great job handling the whole La La Land Moonlight situation. You need somebody there. He did the whole jet ski joke, etc. It did feel a little self-serious. Shocking. I know it always feels a little self-serious, but if you don't have somebody there that's kind of making fun of what's going on and deflating the balloon a little bit, then I do think you run the risk of coming off as too self-important. And I do think that it may have edged that way this year. So I do think you need a host. Who that host is, I don't know, or if you can just hand it off between a few people, but somebody to just, if anything, to just remind everybody in the audience. Josh L, 1999. Thank you, Josh. Hey, Dan, I'm curious what the distinction is between a feature film and an independent film. As it gets technologically easier to make movies, is the distinction blurring? Thanks, and you've been my favorite viewer for years. Thank you, Josh. The difference between, well, I mean, technically, independent movies are feature movies. I think what you might be asking about is the difference between a studio film and an independent film. And really the difference would be a studio film is backed by, Fox, Warner Brothers, Disney, etc. And it usually has to do not even really with, like Nomadland, for instance, is backed by Fox Searchlight and backed by Disney, but it could count as an independent film. It's really movies that are usually made before they have distribution, before a studio is funding them, before studios pick them up. That's why Sundance is such a hot commodity. It's because these are all movies that are independently financed, meaning they don't go through the studios for financing. They can then be bought by or distributed by the major studios, but that means they would still count as an independent film. So it's really about the production of the movie. Is it independently financed, or did a studio finance that movie? And that's the big distinction. And there's some lines that can be blurred here and there, but that's why, for example, Disney can send out a big press release saying that they had the best picture winner because Nomadland was handled by Fox Searchlight. Fox Searchlight is a division of Disney, ergo Disney can be the one that says they have best picture. But it doesn't mean small movie. small movies can be bankrolled by studios. It's really much more about who puts the original financing into the film. And that really more than anything goes into the difference between a studio movie and an independent film. Rhino donated, thank you. Love your channel and the SJU days. I'm curious if there's a specific film that sparked your box office charting passion. I started following it as a kid with the first Spider-Man with Box Office Mojo and have always had an interest. Take care and chest pats to all. Thank you so much. I covered it a little bit in there's the cat. All my movies about Titanic. Titanic, I think, really more than anything was the movie that sparked my obsession. Specifically, I'd always been a big movie guy, but specifically with the box office because it was so much about, is it going to be number one? How much money has it made? Is it going to break the new record? What did it drop off? What's the percentage of drop off? All that stuff that I do now on that set that's directly across from me. And yes, I know this is kind of a fisheye lens so that my hands look massive. Just part of the things that we're still figuring out. It's better than the my hands are that big. It's better than the Oscar show. I know that was a weird forced perspective. I have a big kind of a wide angle webcam. That's why. But all of the things that I talk about on charts really started with Titanic. So when we talk about box office, I would say that's the movie that kicked it off. John Getz, thank you so much. Very generous donation. I'm glad I finally caught a live show of yours. You're an inspirationally humble, intelligent, and eloquent person. And I can honestly say you've made me a better person through the years of seeing how you tackle subjects without ever showing disrespect or arrogance. Well, thank you very much. It's a little awkward for me to read praise. I'm still working on that. But no, John, thank you so much for those kind words. I won't say that I never show disrespect, but I try not to be disrespectful. I think I've gotten a little better over the years. But there's a lot of, especially when we talk about movies, and it's a perspective that even I've come around to in the past several years. There's so much actual just volatility and negativity about things. And I don't like everything, but that doesn't mean that I've got to attack anyone for liking or not liking something that I like or don't like, or even that I can, just really viciously go after certain movies, certain directors, etc. I think that even if I don't like something, there's just so much negativity in the world in general, and there always has been. I don't want to add a whole lot to that. That's why even things that I'm not a huge fan of, like, I know that most people love the end of The Mandalorian. I wasn't the biggest fan of it with the cameo, etc. But, my perspective on that and the way that I tried to approach is like, hey, if you love it, that's great. I get it. I understand it. I wish that I was in that camp. But, I'm going to state my piece and why, it didn't really do anything for me. But that doesn't mean that you're wrong. And I think that so many people fall into that trap that if you liked or didn't like something, that the prevailing opinion or even the personal opinions that you did or didn't like it, then you're wrong. And now I have to be on a quest to prove to you why you're wrong. I don't subscribe to that philosophy. Corey King says, I can't recall if you previously mentioned that Adam Schlesinger, Fountains of Wayne, That Thing You Do, wasn't included in the in memoriam section of the Oscars ceremony, but that is a damn shame. That is a damn shame, Corey. I didn't, when I did my live show, I hadn't read yet a lot of the discourse because I was kind of catching up, but I did not realize that Adam Schlesinger, because yes, not only did he write That Thing You Do and was a great musician in his own right, that was an Oscar nominated song. So it wasn't just a musician who wrote music for the movies. That was an actual Oscar nominee. The in memoriam thing was just top to bottom a train wreck. I'm almost tempted to just like do my own, just find some music, demonetize it, and put it out there. But there's always the risk that even you miss somebody who should have been in there, et cetera. There's always going to be omissions, but that was surprising to me that an Oscar-nominated songwriter did not make the cut. And then Nesha Ward says, what do you think it will take for the Academy as a whole to actually vote for Netflix and not just nominate it? I'm of the belief that it is at least partially responsible for the losses that they suffered. I think that's a good question. I don't necessarily subscribe to the anti-Netflix bias that a lot of people saw, particularly with Chadwick Boseman not winning. And even in the past, I think perhaps it came into play a little bit with Roma. And I know that was only a couple of years ago, but a couple of years can do a lot for how people view certain things. So I think that the lines are blurring. I think that this year did a lot to blur those lines because people were mostly watching movies at home anyway. If there is a big juggernaut movie, because even Roma was kind of the odds-on favorite, but it wasn't like the movie that people were like, that's definitely going to be it. And it won some big awards still. I think that if we see movies that are, far and away the front runner on Netflix that continue to not win, then we can talk about it. But I actually think that the bias has decreased when it comes to Netflix movies a little bit, in my opinion, over the last couple of years instead of increased. I just think that a lot of times the competition is tough. Netflix did win in several categories, and best Ma Rainey's won a couple, and Mank won a couple, so it did win some awards. I think it really just comes down to tough competition. But there's an older part of the Academy that said that they don't consider Netflix movies. So they're getting more and more marginalized as the Academy brings more people into its membership. We'll see. I'm not so sure that there's a huge anti-Netflix bias. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat. Speaking of movies that you're watching at home and streaming, I've made a joke about this for the last couple years because this is just how it works. Every time there's a big streaming event, 3 or 4 days later, there's a press release saying that it was the biggest ever. And here's the one for Mortal Kombat. Samba TV reported that Mortal Kombat is the most popular day-and-date release ever for HBO Max. They are a software company that develops apps for smart TV. And it's really actually kind of weird. If you look at just exactly what Samba TV does, they develop apps that you enable it on your smart TV and it tracks the pixels on your television and then recommends things to you because it's kind of watching what you watch by watching the pixels. That is not how they reported these numbers. These numbers reportedly were done through a survey of people that have actual physical television. So this is also television watchers. But according to Samba TV's metrics, Mortal Kombat was the most watched HBO Max release to date through its first 3 days. They said that 3.8 million U.S. Households chose to watch at least five. Here's the catch. They watched at least 5 minutes of Mortal Kombat. 4 minutes doesn't count. 6 minutes, it counts. This tops, according to them, high-profile movies. It edged out Godzilla vs. Kong, Wonder Woman 1984, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. It should be noted that, and I'm not saying that these are reflective of the numbers, but Samba TV's two of its primary investors are Warner Media and Disney, because they saw the value of the technology that they offered. Again, it's not, I don't think that they're, cooking the numbers, but I do think that it is always important when you're talking about these news stories and these numbers, these facts and figures where they come out. What's the source of these? This is Samba TV. They have their own method. These are not objective metrics that you can find out there. And they are in part supported by two of the biggest streamers that are out there. But the more important thing is that this is my thing with numbers. You can take a certain metric, like who knows, through the first 5 minutes, it was the most watched HBO Max thing ever. Okay. But for all we know, through the first 7 minutes, it was the third most watched. And through the first 11 minutes, it was the fourth most watched. This is the thing that is tough, and these get condensed down to Mortal Kombat was the most watched thing on HBO Max ever. Well, by this metric, sure, but the problem is we don't have any other metrics to go by. And it's a very boring thing when you see numbers, and my reaction, and you'll probably see it here on the show again, is like, well, sure, but let's wait and see what the rest of the numbers say. We don't have the rest of the numbers to even look at. So by the first 5 minute metric, it looks like Mortal Kombat was a very popular thing for people to watch on HBO Max. Warner Media, I'm sure, is very happy about that because they put a lot of eggs in the HBO Max basket. But who knows? Like I said, we just don't know what the other numbers say. That's the thing about the box office. It's money. Money is money. If Walt Disney reports that X number of people, or if Warner Brothers reports that X amount of money was made by their movies at the weekend box office, we can point to that. There's receipts, there's actual, accounting documents, tax filings. We can verify that information. These streaming numbers, they can come from anywhere, and they can use any metric that you want. And I'm not saying, we're going to have to start using them, because right now there's no one way to measure any of this stuff. But I would always say, when you see these numbers about this is the biggest, this is the best, etc., just look at the qualifier over how many minutes, or if they don't provide that qualifier, then there's no way of knowing. But it does look like Mortal Kombat was somewhat popular for people to watch at home. But there is a regular segment that I want to do here on the show, and it's a segment, really, it's something that I used to do on Movie Fights, and that I've done a few times otherwise, which is fact-checking. I think it's something that's very important, especially when it comes to not just the real world news, but the world of entertainment, the world of movie news. Because the fact of the matter is that sometimes people will take a story or a quote or something and spin it out of control. And then these crazy stories start spreading around like wildfire that really aren't based in a whole lot of reality. I will be keeping an eye out on these things and trying to find stories and bring them to you as well. But if you see something out there that you want me to fact check here on the show, send me a tweet. At Murrell Dan, just hashtag fact check Dan. Something that you want to see me like delve into. Is this right? Is this wrong? Can you confirm this? Or even a story that you've seen that you want to know where it came from. Let me know. I want to start fact checking things here on the show because sometimes, you know what? It checks out. And the story that you're reading is exactly what's happening. Sometimes it's half true. Sometimes it's just a lie. Sometimes people just make stuff up. Anything that you want, if you see something out there, you want me to look into it, send it to me on Twitter at MurrellDan or down in the comments, hashtag FactCheckDan, and I will be happy to fact check them on a future episode of the show. I've got word that we got a couple more donations, and I'll read some of your $5 comments as well. This is a good time to take our first official comment break. Michael donated. Thank you, Michael. Love charts. I work in the industry and thought you could include SVOD sub-editions related to exclusive movie releases or SVOD churn or SVOD sub-share. I know this data needs to be pieced together, but would take charts to the next level. Thank you, by the way. SVOD, streaming video on demand, basically the different streaming streamers, Netflix, HBO Max, etc. Yeah, sub-editions meaning how many subscribers did they add, the churn meaning in and out, and then share, subscription share, etc. It would take some collation. Like I said, we're in a very early stage of this whole thing, but it is something that when I've talked about charts and leveling up, I started doing the streaming charts last year where it's like, what are people watching on Amazon, et cetera. I've thought about incorporating that. And that's a great question. Michael, thank you for that. But I have thought about incorporating that into what I'm doing because that is kind of the TV ratings of the day. So I would say, yes, if I can get a good system for just finding some reliable sources, places I can go to week in and week out, that are reporting that data reliably, I would love to start including that in charts. Let's read some of your comments that have come in. Josh L says, hey, Dan, here's a few bucks from a longtime fan. Keep doing you, man. Thank you, Josh. Kate Van D says, House of Champions. That's very true. I'm very proud to be with the current Inner Geekdom champion, the amazing Mara Kanopik. I'm now reclaim my belt as the Schmodown singles champion. So thank you, Kate. Rush Sherman says, with the advent of shows like Dexter and Saved by the Bell getting revived, is there any other show you want to see get a chance of a final season? Ooh, that's a good question because a lot of times they either wear out their welcome or they don't quite nail it just right, and you're kind of like, or they end perfectly. I'm trying to think. I don't know if one pops into mind right now. I would always love more West Wing, but that'd be more of a special, I think. Plus, at this point, it's Veep. Veep is the West Wing, I think, at this point. NPE 94 says, hi, Dan, congrats on the show. Out of the big IP franchise movies coming out in 2021, which one are you looking forward to the most? I think you can count Dune as a big IP movie. It's Dune. Just anything Denis Villeneuve does, I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on the biggest screen that I can find. Robert Terry says, I love the Oscars, but they treated animated films as if they need to be groundbreaking to get nominated for Best Picture when dramas can just be good for that year to be nominated. I think Soul deserved a nod. I agree. We talk about franchise bias all the time with the Academy Awards, and I think that is something for animated films. I've seen so many great animated movies, ones that I would rate above live action films. But there's this need that it can't just be a good animated movie. It's got to be a great one. For example, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was one of the best movies I saw the year it came out. And I think it should have been nominated for Best Picture. But it wasn't because it was a good animated film. Now, that was a great movie. And so I would like to see that. I would like to see that rectified as well. Of course, I'm one of those crazy people that also says that Avengers Endgame should have been nominated for Best Picture because I think it was one of the best movies of the year. Michael Leahy says, hey, Dan, what is your most anticipated movie of the next 2 years? Mine is Shout It Out Loud, the Kiss biopic. Are you sure you're not Billy Patterson under a different pseudonym? I don't know, Michael Leahy. I'm suspicious of you. You're, as I've learned the kids say, you're sus. You're sus. See, I don't know. I'm like a grandpa learning this stuff. No, Michael, I'm sure, first of all, if you don't know Billy Patterson, you should go find Billy because I'm sure that's his answer as well. I mean, listen, Batman is my guy. I love Batman, and that is any iteration of Batman I'm going to be excited to see. Plus, I'm such a huge fan of what Robert Pattinson's been doing with Good Time and his dramatic performances lately. It's got to be Batman for me. Or the Batman. I think that just, it's got the potential, I think, to be great. Maybe it's not going to be, but any new iteration of Batman I'm going to look at. Jose Balderas, thank you, Jose. A very nice donation there. Have not heard much about it, but having Marlee Matlin present only to cut away from her and just hear her interpreter seemed to me is disrespectful. Love the channel. Yeah, Jose, this is a producer thing. I don't know why the production decisions were made. I know that you have to see the nominees, but if you're going to make the point, and you have a movie like Sound of Metal that was all about, the movie itself is subtitled just naturally as it comes, and it is about the inclusion of people who are deaf, and we even I'm part of a association, the Hollywood Critics Association. We gave the Best Supporting Actor award. He won to Paul Raci from Sound of Metal this year, and he accepted in sign language because he has people in his family that are hearing impaired, and so I think that you could have at least, or should have at least, made the motion of putting a box, keep her on screen at least, and like you see with so many interpreters, so that people can see her continue to talk. Just another odd. Yeah, Mara grew up in a family where there were people. She had family members. She often still watches things subtitled because she grew up watching it that way, and we were watching it, and she noted that as well. It's a very odd decision. So that'll be the end of our first comment break. A couple more stories. Oh, sorry. No, we've got one more to talk about right now. Thank you. Very generous people today. At the top, let's see, the very top.
Jose Malderas.
Oh, yeah. Jose, I just talked about. He asked the question about Marlee Matlin, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You went all the way back.
Yep.
My bad.
Yep. That's it. Okay. Awesome.
Counting is hard.
I agree. We'll do another comment break here in just a second, but this was another story that a lot of people tweeted me about because it really does involve two movies that I love. And that is that there's a new quote unquote best movie ever on Rotten Tomatoes. And that is the movie Paddington 2. Paddington 2 supplanted Citizen Kane because Rotten Tomatoes has been doing an effort to incorporate older reviews of movies. It's not just for Citizen Kane. According to the sources that I found, they've incorporated actually about 5,500 archived reviews from old movies, older films, to complete the archive of those reviews and to make it seem like more of a complete spectrum of the reaction across the different years. Citizen Kane is now at 99% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes because they surfaced one negative review from the 1940s. It is a review from the Chicago Tribune from May 7th, 1941, part of 21 archive reviews of Citizen Kane that were added. The reviewer is matinee, which is a turn of the phrase on matinee, which is, a movie matinee. But this was the review. Citizen Kane fails to impress critic as greatest ever filmed. I don't know where that voice came from. But yes, it was basically one of those reviews that says, it's not that good. Where Citizen Kane had such a hype going on around it that was like, it's okay, but it's not that good. And it was. I read the review here when it came out because I'm that old. No, I read the review, the archive version, and it's not shenanigans. It is. I would count it as a negative review, but it is now 99% fresh, which means when you look, there are some other movies that are 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. But I believe by number of reviews, Paddington 2 is now the most fresh movies on Rotten Tomatoes. So, of course, it has led to all kinds of movies. Is Paddington 2 better than Citizen Kane? Some people say yes. I think that I can't think of any movies that are more different than Paddington 2 and Citizen Kane. But it's all subjective. I don't necessarily think that it's. Some people have said like, oh, they did that just to make news. I mean, listen, it wasn't. If they'd only added this review, sure, they're adding archive reviews, and there's always going to be a contrarian. There's one critic in particular that's on Rotten Tomatoes. If you go look at 90% of the movies that have 99%, there's one critic who's always the contrarian, and that's just the way that they think, the way that they view movies. That's just what happens. And so it's not shocking. The thing that I'm actually more upset about is the fact, and I looked, that May Tanay is now a top critic on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I mean, listen, I haven't been on Rotten Tomatoes that long. I'm lucky enough to be on Rotten Tomatoes, but like, not only is the critic no longer alive, but there are plenty of great critics that have passed on that were top critics on Rotten Tomatoes. There's not even we don't even know who the person is. There's a pseudonym that's a top critic on Rotten Tomatoes. For everybody else that's been in the trenches for years, that's just a slap in the face. It'd be like naming, Mr. Potato Head the MVP of the World Series. Like, he's a fictional character. He's not even a real player. But I hear he's been working on his numbers. I hear he's gotten his batting average up. So maybe that's an unfair slander on me for Mr. Potato Head. We have another comment to ask right now, or question to ask. A couple, actually. Stretchy. I don't know why I find this so funny. Stretchy Hulk. I just imagine the Hulk. Stretchy Hulk says, "Hello, thanks for all you do. Could I ask, do you have a movie that is a guilty, almost embarrassed to admit you like it pleasure?" I've talked about The Happening on this movie, on this show, or on this channel so many times, on other channels. And then I actually got this question the other night, and I sat and thought about it for a second. I have a soft spot for Gerard Butler.
Yeah, you do.
I know that a lot of his movies are awful, and I don't like every Gerard Butler movie, but particularly Gerard Butler's action oeuvre, if you will. I know they're bad movies, but I like them. I really do. I have a soft spot for Gerard Butler. This is okay. I just want to shout out to somebody because I've met these two, Matt and Caleb Graham. I met both of them at a Schmodown events. Little Warrior and his dad dropping in to say, "We love Dan and Mara," and he still has the picture we took at Spectacular 4 with you both. Yeah, the Little Warrior, you can see it in some of the Schmodown promos. He was at the Schmodown Spectacular. We didn't have one. We didn't have a live event this past year, but he was at the one the year before, and he was the official belt bearer. He carried, I think, almost everyone's belts into the ring. And he was a Little Warrior. You can see him in a lot of the promos that we've done. But what up, Little Warrior, man? I hope you're doing well. Hope to see you at another live event. That's one of the things that I miss so much about the Schmodown, is that we can't do live events right now. But once we can do live events, if we're near you and you can make it, I'm looking forward to. I'll make this deal. If Matt and Caleb can make it to another Schmodown live event at any point, and I'm lucky enough to be a champion at that time, then I've got a belt bearer. I have an official. You because it was good luck. It was good luck at the last one. I need you to carry my belt back in the ring. So if we can get back to a live event and you're there, you got a job. Get. I mean, you already are carrying them before, but those belts are heavy. So get to lift them, Little Warrior. But I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching the show. Harv's donated. Thank you, Harv's. Hi, Dan. Much love to all that you do in this space. Looking forward to more anime Ghibli coverage. One film not to overlook is Miyazaki's first feature, Castle of Cagliostro. It's a super fun adventure that apparently influenced Spielberg and Raiders. I get a lot of questions about my anime reviews because I did a couple of them and I stopped doing them. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, just time, because I really wanted to put the time and effort into it, and I was watching both versions, and just with what I had going on at that time, and that was even before we added the podcast and this show, etc. I just didn't have time to do it the way that I wanted to. But I want to start getting back into anime reviews, and I do eventually want to watch all of Miyazaki. But that one I don't know if I was that familiar with, so I will add that to my list to make sure. Should I tease what we're doing now, Mara?
What are we doing now?
What we're watching for an anime review?
It would be appropriate. Although wait, no. There's a comment later. Let me.
There's a comment later about it.
A comment later that we.
Okay.
That we,
We may save it for the comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wait,
This is a teaser for later on. We'll tease what the next anime review is going to be. And then John Getz says, "I know your anime reviews have taken a hiatus. Oh, here we go. Yeah, but here's a mostly blank check to just asking how much money to get you on the Demon Slayer hype train. Episode chunks or even shorties on a single episode. It's amazing and popular." Well, there you go. That's the spoiler. So you didn't have to wait as long as I thought you did. I have started Demon Slayer. I am 8 episodes in, and I'm hooked. It's so good. It's on Netflix here. I haven't seen a lot of anime, and so I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I think it's really good. It's hilarious. Like, I laugh out loud once or twice so far. Maybe it gets more serious later in the show, but there's the jokes, and maybe it would be less funny to somebody that's watched a lot of anime and just doesn't know the difference, and even just how they change the art based on the character's mood. But I just think it's really funny. It's great at mixing on horror, action, comedy, drama. I'm on board. I started watching it because, Demon Slayer's done so well at the box office. I actually want to get through the show. I'm 8 episodes in, so I'm about a third of the way through. I want to get through the show and go see the movie and then get a review of both up here on the channel. And I want to do it in a timely manner since the movie just came out. So John, that's the answer. And everybody else that's asking me about anime, I am currently trying to watch Demon Slayer as quickly as I can, but not like in an obligatory way. I want to get through it, but I'm also really, really enjoying it. Stay tuned here on the channel very soon. We're breaking news here. There will be a review of the first season of Demon Slayer and Demon Slayer, the movie, very soon, right here on the channel. There you go. We're already breaking news. Speaking of breaking news, there is a big event that broke a lot of news that came out. Oh, sorry, Mark.
I was told to remind you to encourage people to like the video in between your segment breaks, that it helps.
Oh, I'm told that you think I would know this, but I'm told to ask people to like the video. I believe like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button.
No, we squish it here.
Squish the subscribe button gently. Don't injure the subscribe button. Just perhaps take the subscribe button out and then get into a point where the subscribe button is like, yes, you can squish me or whatever. Anyway, I'm just saying, don't abuse the subscribe button. Be nice to the subscribe button. But yes,
the amount of force you deem appropriate for the subscribe button.
I struggle a little bit with the YouTube game, and one of the things that I don't do is ask for likes and smashing things, etc. But I would love it if you like the video because it does help the engagement.
We do support smashing cancer.
Smashing cancer, yes. Our good friend Kevin Smets, hashtag smash cancer. We do, yes. Cancer is the one thing that we unequivocally support smashing in this household. Let's see. As I was saying, speaking of breaking news, there was an event that was a big hit for a lot of people last year that is actually coming back in the later part of this year, and that is DC Fandom. If you watch, DC Fandom was a live streamed event. It went out live around the world. That's where we saw first official looks at things like the Snyder Cut / Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got that first trailer for the Batman. Apparently it was a big success, and also because there will be no Comic-Con. There will be a small Comic-Con in November, but DC Fandom is coming back on October 16th. It will be another global experience that previously launched last year in August, so a little over a year after the first one. No official word on what they will be talking about, but there are a lot of things that they can be giving us first looks at, in addition to all of their TV shows, animation, etc., all the stuff at CW, HBO Max shows. We've got the Batman, which is coming out next year, so there is, I'm sure, a very high likelihood that we're going to get an enhanced look at the Batman. We've got Black Adam, which is on the schedule for next year. Probably a good chance that we're going to get a look at that. The Flash is currently in production. I'm betting we're going to get something from that movie. And then currently Aquaman 2 is on the schedule for December 2022. I'm not so sure about that, especially because The Flash is on the schedule for November and Aquaman 2 is on the schedule for December. It's possible they keep it the same, but I think we may see that push to 2023. But there are a lot of theatrical things coming up that we haven't seen a whole lot of. We saw that first look at the Batman last year. Are they going to hold the next look at it till October? Maybe. You never know. We don't really know what the summer movie season is going to look like, but plenty of stuff for them to talk about over on the second edition of the DC Fandom. Plus, there could always be some looming Henry Cavill announcement and the ever looming specter of the Snyderverse. Who knows? At this point, I've stopped saying never. Anything having to do with the Snyderverse, I'm not making any proclamations or fortune telling. I've been down that road. Not going to happen. So you never know. There's always a left field announcement that could be made. Another thing that has been kind of coming through, and this isn't an official story, but this was reported in an interview with Insider, which is that Pixar staffers are telling various sources, and this was, like I said, an interview that was done to Insider, that the decision to send Luca, which is the next Pixar film, it's coming out this summer, The decision to send Luca straight to Disney Plus. It is not going to be a premium Disney Plus movie. You're going to be able to just watch it if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, just like they did with Soul. There are a lot of staff members at Pixar that are reportedly frustrated by this decision. Not all the staff members, but a lot of them, because they feel that, number one, if the films aren't seen as financial successes, then perhaps it would jeopardize the future of the company, or jeopardize at least, the growth of the company if there's no metric. Although Disney was reportedly very pleased with how Soul performed when they released it on Christmas Day, Pete Docter was apparently not happy to hear that the movie Soul was going to be streaming, but was happy that it performed well on Disney Plus. But a lot of people were getting close to 500 likes. Wow, I guess asking for likes works. Thank you. I'll have to start doing it more. But Pete Docter, obviously the performance of Disney Plus on Soul, people really, really enjoyed that at Disney. But there's also not just people at Pixar itself, but there are movie theater owners that are also disappointed to hear that Luca, which could be if the summer movie season recovers, and it looks like we're heading that direction, that was a big movie that was taken away from them. This was a quote from Russell Van Orstel. He runs Fridley Theaters, which is a theater chain based out of Iowa. He said, quote, "When that news came out with Disney's reshuffling of its Luca release, it was very disappointing and very discouraging. It's pretty clear the handwriting is on the wall that we will not be going back to normal, particularly with Disney. Luca was scheduled for the summer and could have had an amazing theatrical run. That one is a complete head scratcher. I honestly don't know if Disney has a master plan. I believe they are looking at each title at how it can best serve them instead of working with theaters." So there's a lot of hurt feelings, it seems, with this decision to put Luca on Disney Plus. If I'm a theater owner, I understand Pixar movies do big business. They bring in a lot of kids, and it does seem like we had a great box office weekend, not just by pandemic standards, but by normal standards. When you look at the performance of Mortal Kombat and Demon Slayer just this past weekend. So I understand these frustrations. If you are someone who, runs Pixar, if you're someone at Disney, of course, the thing that you do have to worry about is you want your employees to be happy. You don't want them to get pulled away to other companies. There's not a whole lot of other animation studios that are at a Pixar level, but there's a couple that could probably compete. But the other thing that you have to wonder is there going to be a resumption of normal? With Warner Media and HBO Max, it looks like this deal that they have, the day and date theatrical deal, based on the deals that they've made with other filmmakers, is not going to go on past this year. It's all about streaming. It's all about streaming and how much money that Disney is going to make on streaming, whether there's any resumption of quote unquote normal. But I do think that you may have a morale problem at Pixar, because if your filmmakers and the people that they talk to and work with every day are starting to get a little frustrated that their movies aren't coming out, then I think that that's going to have to be a voice that's eventually listened to. Let's take another little comment break here. Let me go to some of your others.
Definitely need a comment break.
We definitely, oh my goodness, we do need a, okay, we're going to have more like a comment. Good grief. Thank you, everybody. Cam Wood says, "Thank you for all that you do, man. Charts makes Mondays tolerable. Congratulations on the past year's successes and new beginnings." Thank you so much, Cameron. Stuart Arbery says, "Dan, which movies do you think would have been nominated in a normal year? I think only Nomadland and The Father. Thanks, and go Knowles." Stu, I think we went to school together. I think we did. If we did, what's up, man?
Say so in the comments section.
Exactly. Which movies do I think would have been nominated in a normal year? He thinks only Nomadland and The Father. I actually think, I got this question before, I think actually that there would have been at least half the same, because when you look at the movies that were actually pushed out of 2020, most of them were movies that I don't necessarily know. Would Tenet have been? Well, Tenet it wasn't nominated. But, would Black Widow have been nominated for Best Picture? Probably not. Would a lot of the big studio releases have been nominated? I'm not sure. There was The Last Duel, which is from Ridley Scott, that I think was positioning itself to be a big Oscar movie. But I actually think that half or more of those nominees would have been the same, because I don't think that a lot of the Best Picture caliber winners, unless there was a big blockbuster that came out and blew everybody away, which is very possible, I don't think a lot of them got pushed out of 2020 altogether. So I actually don't think it would look incredibly different, although there's a few that I think would be different. Jake Dyer says, "Are you going to guest star on the Sardonicast podcast hosted by Adam Johnson, Alex Beltman, and Ralph the Movie Maker?" I'm not familiar with that particular podcast. Adam Johnson came in. I remember he came and did an episode of Movie Fights way back when, but I'm not familiar with that show. I would, I'd love to check it out. And if they asked, but why not? I love talking movies. D Lion says, sorry if you talked about this already, but your thoughts on Demon Slayer being snubbed. I guess the question would be Demon Slayer being snubbed in conjunction with the Academy Awards. I don't know what the rules on that are because it came out last year. It came out last year in Japan and I think in a few other countries. I don't know what the rules are as far as it being released here in North America and if it would be technically eligible for this year. I will say that I think that if we talk about genre bias, I think Demon Slayer would have an uphill battle because I think a lot of people would dismiss it as kids stuff or because it is tied into a bigger storyline. If they saw it, they wouldn't quite get it. But I'd have to check the eligibility rules. It may very well have been eligible this year and didn't make it. I forget what all the short lists were as far as what movies were on and what movies were off. But if it were eligible for this upcoming year, based on what I've seen so far, I think it might have a bit of an uphill climb just because it's not something you just jump into immediately, the movie at least. Jodester, wow, thank you, Jodester. If you like Demon Slayer, do you think you'll do further anime dives? I'd love to hear your thoughts, plus maybe an anime watch-along. Definitely will do further anime dives. I've talked about the fact that I want to get more into anime. I think I'm missing out on a lot, not just Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli, but a lot of other stuff by not doing anime. So yes, I'm very interested in doing more anime. And as we go along, I'm getting better at scheduling things and doing things the right way and figuring out my life and how I can do things. But yes, I am liking Demon Slayer a lot so far, and I very much want to do further anime deep dives. Stuart again says, trivia, no Best Picture winner has been lost to history, though a few like All Quiet on the Western Front and Lawrence of Arabia are only available in altered forms. The Patriot, 1928, is the only nominee to be totally lost. Go Knowles. I did not know that. And that's actually pretty miraculous because we talked a little bit about this in all my movies about The Godfather, but restoration, one of the things that makes restoration so difficult sometimes for older movies is the original negative, which is like the master copy of the movie. It's kind of like old TV shows. They used to just tape over the masters. That's why so much of Doctor Who was lost. After a certain amount of time, they would just tape over the old masters of TV shows because they already aired. Who cares? They didn't even think about the fact that people would want to go back and revisit those shows later on. Film is very much the same way. After a movie was released, especially older movies, the silent era, so many thousands of movies have been lost to time. The negatives, the original master copies of these movies were not stored in a way that was conducive to preservation. A lot of them were burned up in fires. A lot of them just disintegrated or were physically lost. So it is kind of miraculous, and maybe it's because they did have that Academy Award tag on it, that so many movies that won the Academy Award were not lost. There were some crucial films like Vertigo that were thought lost for years because they were taken out of circulation and nobody could find the original negatives and prints. We really did lose. I'm sure who knows how many great movies we lost because people didn't have an eye toward history. Now we do, which is great. The only thing that we have to take note of, and I've talked about this before, is that every time the format changes, meaning when we went to VHS, we went from VHS to DVD, DVD to HD, and now from HD to streaming, there are movies that don't get upgraded and get lost, essentially. Like the movies themselves aren't lost, but people forget them because they don't make that jump for whatever reason to the next format. Shattered Glass, one of my favorite movies, is one of them. It never made the jump to HD. I think you can get it on streaming. Streaming is actually better. It's one places where streaming is better. You can find more movies that didn't make the jump on physical media, but you always have to be careful when you're changing formats to make sure movies don't get lost in the shuffle. Paul Januszewski, thank you so much. Cineplex stock in Canada, our major theater chain, last man standing, has been consistently at 1/4 of its value in March 2020. Any thoughts as to what reason they might not make a comeback? Enjoying the live show and reviews picking up. Yeah, reviews, first of all, are really going to pick up. I was looking at the schedule. We have a little bit of a gap here before Spiral comes out, and then I think 2 weeks before Quiet Place 2 and Cruella, although Army of the Dead's in there as well. But after Memorial Day, there's really no breathing room, which is great. We're going to make up for lost time because I'm going to try to review as many new movies as I can this year. Cineplex stock being at 1/4 of its value, I think it's really because nobody really knows what the situation is going to be. Are people going to want to go back to the movies at all? I mean, maybe you should have Reddit call and Cineplex should call Reddit, and because you can just call Reddit personally, and Reddit will answer the phone and say, "Hello, this is Reddit," and you'll say, "Give me the stonks department," and that's how that works. But I think that I think it's just because nobody really knows what the future is going to hold, and hopefully as people return to the movies, that's going to change. But I just don't think there's a lot of speculation on stocks for exhibition chains, because even though some people are going to go back to the movies, the question is how many. Nobody really knows. PLD donated. Thank you so much. PLD just wanted to say congrats on the first live show. What an amazing positive community. Still waiting on the eventual Why I Love The Rock. I do love The Rock. And PLD, because you donated, there's only one reason really why The Rock is superior to all other action movies. And that's Ed Harris. He cannot give that order. All right. CBMF Productions. Thank you. CBMF says, what is a scene? Wait, who says no? Michael Biehn can't give that order, right? And The Rock.
Well, there's lots of they both can't give those orders.
Yeah, but Michael Biehn's the one that says I can't give that order because he's ordering his. We'll hash this out on camera.
No, you're right.
Either way, Ed Harris.
Give the order,
right.
Yeah.
Either way, Ed Harris is the reason that The Rock is superior to all 90s action films. CBMF Production says, what's a scene that you can think of most recently that freaked you out / surprised you? For me, it would be the restaurant scene in Invisible Man. Ooh, Invisible Man just in general was freaky. That was a freaky movie. But one that really freaked me out, I'm trying to think, because it's been we've seen a lot of movies, but most of the horror films were kind of smaller. Invisible Man was pretty. The scene where little things like when she's outside and then you see the breath next to her, that's the kind of stuff that freaks me out. These things of like, it could be right next to you and you don't even know. That gets me even more than the big scare moments, or even just the suspense of sneaking around the house and not knowing if he's going to wake up and is he going to get you. I don't like that, because everybody who's walked around their house alone in the dark at some point in the evening, that's scary. Let's see. Yoda 0VG says, been a huge fan of yours since Screen Junkies Plus. Here's some thanks for turning me towards flicks I would not have seen without your recommendation. Forever thankful and keep it up. # bring back Dan's Labyrinth. Thank you. I mean, this channel really is Dan's Lab. It's an unofficial version of it's what would happen if Dan's Lab was its own channel. I just didn't name it Dan's Labyrinth. But thank you so much. I'm glad you've been sticking around since the Screen Junkies Plus days. Stefano Padilla says, hi, Dan. Really enjoyed your breakdown on the Mortal Kombat and Demon Slayer box office numbers. Speaking of the latter, I know you're a movie guy, but would you ever watch the series and then the movie to review? Well, I hate to. You could have spurred the breaking news, but yes, Stefano, I would. Not only would I consider it, I am doing it, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. John Lestrina, thank you, John. John's popping in to say hello while still at work. Today is an unpleasant anniversary, and it's been stressful at work, but glad to find a show like this as a distraction. As we have learned from the Fast and the Furious, not all blood is family. John, I know you're such a big fan of the F&F movies, often stumping me on trivia questions about Fast and the Furious. So sorry today sucks for you. Everybody's got those days. That's one of the things that's most flattering for me is when I hear that, something that I do can help make somebody's day a little bit better. So I'm glad this can be a little island for you today. And hopefully tomorrow can be better. But thank you for your support, John. I really appreciate it.
You need to say hello to Ben the Boss Bateman.
I need to say hello to
Brandon and Hannah.
Ben the Boss Bateman and Brandon. Are they challenging me? What are they doing here?
Saying hello.
They're saying hello. Hey guys, I thought it was an ambush.
No.
I thought you were going to challenge me to a trivia contest. Ben, Brandon, hello. Thank you for watching. I apologize in advance when I call you both soon to be on the show. I'm glad you enjoy watching because I'm putting you in front of the camera soon. It's always great to hear friends are watching, guys. Thanks for watching. Elaine says, I can't stay for the live show, but I wanted to say I very much enjoy your videos and I try not to miss any. Thank you, Dan and Mara. Thank you, Elaine. I appreciate it. NPE94 says, why do you think Oscar ratings keep declining? I think that there are a few different reasons. I think number one, that viewership is declining across the board on just about everything because there's just more to watch, more places to watch. The audience is splintering. It's harder to measure how people are watching. I agree with a lot of people that said the Oscars need to figure out a streaming solution because I know that they may stream live to like website or something, but they really need to figure out how to get onto a major streaming service in addition to terrestrial broadcasting, because I think that's going to help. And I think it's just that as movies become, more and more movies are being made, and people aren't going to see as many of them. It used to be that you would have X number of major releases a year. So the Oscar nominees were all movies that everybody had a chance to see. They were all in theaters. They'd all been distributed nationwide. That started changing largely in the 90s. And now you have a point where not everybody has Netflix or Hulu, or the movies weren't played everywhere. They only got a partial release. They're different movies. You're able to make smaller movies now, which a lot of times tend to garner Academy attention, but that also means that not as many people see them, or it's a narrow interest. So I think that fewer people are watching a lot of the movies that are nominated. So I think it's a combination of the market changing as far as viewership goes, and the market changing in Hollywood as far as how many movies are made, and the fact that smaller movies can now be made at a bigger pace that are seen by fewer people. And I think that leads to a decline in viewership. Settle the Score Andy says, congrats on the inaugural live episode, Dan. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Krishna Vedantam says, as someone who reviews for fun, it's hard to actually compare the movies. Fair or not, I review and grade movies on different scales. Just me, I guess. No, it's not just you. That's what's one of the reasons that I don't grade. I don't give a letter grade, or on Rotten Tomatoes, when I submit my review, I do give a number out of 10, because I don't like the binary system on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think that giving it a grade X amount out of 10 is kind of the lesser of two evils. But generally when I'm here on the show or on my channel, I don't give movies a star review or a letter grade for that exact reason. I think it's incredibly difficult to compare movies. And so, the B- that I would give Mortal Kombat does not compare to the B- that I would give another movie, or the fact that, the A that I would give this movie for being the best parody comedy on an airplane doesn't compare to the A that I would give a movie that is, something like The Shape of Water, or a movie that's a completely different thing, but yet they have the quote unquote the same grade. So like, you thought The Shape of Water and Airplane were the same kind of, no, I don't think they're the same kind of movie at all. But that's why I don't grade, because you can't compare different movies in that way. And then when you assign a number or a letter that is a scale that's the same across all genres, then I think that it just becomes about the debate of like, you gave this or that and this or that, and I don't like that. So it's not just you, and I think that people should be free to critique movies however they want. And I generally kind of try to go at it holistically, and then I'll say what I thought of the movie, and the closest I'll say is like, what I recommend it, yes or no, but that doesn't mean that that's the final word, because your taste may be very different than mine. Mystery Me says, the Rotten Tomatoes Citizen Kane news reminded me of when Cole Smithy gave Lady Bird a negative review because he wanted to ruin that film's 100% score. And see, that to me is not criticism. If Cole Smithy, and I vaguely remember that, if Cole Smithy or any critic genuinely doesn't like a movie and they're the only person to rate it negatively, that's fine. But if you see a movie that's got 100% score and you're like, well, I'm going to give it a bad review because I want to ruin that score, or because I don't think it deserves that thing outside of your own thoughts for the movie, I don't agree with that school of criticism. I think that's just attention seeking, but my opinion. Luke1234 says, Dan, do you think we'll get RoboCop Returns even if it goes to Netflix? Maybe. I'm very wary about another RoboCop movie. I know they've talked about it's going to be a follow-up to the Verhoeven version, or Verhoeven. I've heard it both ways. I thought I corrected myself, and then I did not correct myself. So either way, it's going to be in that universe. I think that there's great potential there, but if Netflix thinks they're going to get 2 subscribers out of it or make $2, they'll greenlight it. So it's a movie I'd like to see. I'll say that much. I'm willing to risk there being another bad RoboCop movie out there for the potential upside of another one in that universe. So I think that if Netflix sees the economy of it, or if any streaming service sees the economy of it, I think they'll do it. And I would be anxious to see it, because let's just say that it can measure up in any way to the original. That's a win. A $20 donation from the Ghost of a Flea. Thank you for donating from beyond the grave, and for being such a tiny creature to figure out how to donate money. Would contribute monthly if you have a join feature, but love your content. Keep the videos coming. Thank you. I have a Patreon, actually. I was going to do this a little bit later, but there's some people actually I have to thank from Patreon. I do have a Patreon if you want to go over and see what I'm doing over there. I do a movie commentary that we're actually going to record later today that all of my patrons get every month.
You want to tell them what it's going to be this month?
This month, actually, yeah.
If people did want to end up joining and listening to that later, they could.
The patrons choose every month what commentary they're going to get, and this month they chose Snowpiercer. So I'm going to be recording a Snowpiercer audio commentary today, and that'll go out to all patrons. I do recaps of all my Schmodown matches that once they go public that are exclusive to Patreon. And then when you go up different levels, I have Dan's Movie Club, which is a monthly movie club where we watch 3 or 4 different movies. We come together, we have a discussion, some Schmodown study sessions. Lots of really fun stuff there. I'm trying to think what did I leave out. I left out some stuff, but you can go check it out, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. And another perk that I give away is for my producer level patrons. I thank them once a month. So these are some of my producer level patrons that I still owe a thanks to for April. I love seeing these names pop up on Discord, on the Patreon page. We do a monthly Q&A that's exclusive to patrons as well. These are names and faces that I've gotten to know very well over the last year or so. And it's always so great to see them and to see them pop up and say hello. I think you've heard a couple of the names here. They're very wonderful, supportive people. But at any level, I just love being able to connect with people over on Patreon. So I know that there is a join feature here on YouTube where you can get different benefits, etc. With everything else that I'm doing and this show now and the podcast, I don't want to stretch myself too thin. Perhaps in the future, I could look at that. But if you want to head over to Patreon and check that out, that's great. Or if you just want to hang out, listen, you're the ghost of a flea. You've got eternity to check out whatever you want. So feel free to just hang around here and see if you like what we're doing. But thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Let's get to a couple of last smaller stories that I have for you, and then we'll wrap up with the comments that we have. A crazy amount of support today. Thank you to everybody that donated thus far. I do want to mention this is something that's gotten some people a little bit up in arms. This is regarding a movie that was an Academy Award winner, actually, also at the Oscars. I didn't see it until the week before the Oscars because I was trying to make sure that I saw all of the movies that were nominated in the quote unquote 6 big categories. And the director of this film, Thomas Vinterberg, was nominated. He gave a very heartfelt speech at the Academy Awards. Another round, hot off of its Oscar win. A lot of people are not happy about this. There has been a remake that is reportedly in the works. Appian Way, which is Leonardo DiCaprio's production company, got the rights to another round, and he is now reportedly in talks, or at least in a discussion, to star in the role originated by Mads Mikkelsen in the film. If you haven't seen Another Round, it is about a group of gentlemen teachers in middle age who decide to experiment with constantly keeping a little amount of a buzz during the day. It'd be interesting to see how that translates culturally from Denmark to here. But Thomas Vinterberg, who was nominated and for Best Director and won, will be an executive producer, but he will not be a director or a writer on the film. He has made some statements saying that he is curious to see what the developments are going to be. He's not against this, but a lot of people are, because they feel that Mads Mikkelsen's performance was so good that they don't think that Leo or anyone could top it, really. First of all, I recommend Another Round. You can watch it on Hulu now. If you have Hulu, you can watch it. It is a really, really good movie, and Mads Mikkelsen is great. So I recommend that. I'm not necessarily anti-remake. When I see things like the scene of Leo and Wolf of Wall Street, where he takes too many lewds, nothing quite that extreme in this movie, or at least not in the original movie. But I think he can hit some of those same beats. Like I said, culturally, I think it's going to be interesting because, the drinking culture, and particularly drinking culture amongst high school kids, is treated a little bit differently here than it is in Denmark and in Europe in general, and in most other countries in general. So I'll be interested to see what the cultural adaptation of that is. But this color me curious more so. Now, if it was a different actor, if it was like, oh, they're going to remake Another Round and, Dane Cook's going to star in it. Although at this point, that even might be interesting to me. I don't know. Or Seth Rogen, if they're like, it's going to be called Another Toke. It's going to be like, he's just going to be smoking weed. No, we don't need that. We've seen that movie. But Another Round with Leo, I don't know. Maybe. One last story, and then I'll read the rest of your comments. Thank you to everyone that donated today. Adam Wingard, who had a big win with Godzilla vs. Kong, which has done well worldwide and is also available for streaming on HBO Max. I think just rotated out of its window on HBO Max, is reportedly in talks to return to the MonsterVerse. Hollywood Reporter reported that he is meeting in early talks with Legendary and Warner Media to come back for another film in the MonsterVerse. He would be the first director to come back for a second film in this new version of the classic movies. There's no timetable currently. He's got a lot on his plate right now. He's working on Thundercats. He's also reportedly working on a Face-Off sequel at Paramount. But they have talked about continuing the storyline that they introduced in Kong versus Godzilla of Kong's new kingdom. Son of Kong reportedly is a name that has been thrown around but not announced. But Adam Wingard perhaps returning to the MonsterVerse, I'd be in favor of that. I like Godzilla versus Kong. As a matter of fact, of the new MonsterVerse movies, the only one that I really wasn't a huge fan of was Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I still thought that there were some great sequences in that film. I just wasn't. We have to adjust the camera.
No, it's symmetry.
Oh, okay.
I'm weird.
The only one that I wasn't a big fan of was Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I still thought that there were some really interesting sequences in that film. I'm a big fan of the MonsterVerse, and I like Godzilla versus Kong. So if Adam Wingard wants to come back, I really would welcome any of those directors back, because I think that they brought a lot of vision and helped to revive these movies, especially for American audiences, where there's been such a kind of herky-jerky stop-and-go process. Let me wrap up the show by finishing up your comments, and I think we only have, we've got several left. Let's see. We have Anthony Calistro donated. Thank you. Hey, that was my name. Love the show, Dan. Looking forward to celebrating 100K. Plug the video. Yeah, thank you, Anthony. That actually, you played right into my hands. Thank you for that. We are steaming toward 100,000 subscribers. I'm so flattered to be even approaching that mark. And I made this deal with all of you, or the people that were watching last year. And I mentioned it now as we get closer, because I want people to get excited. But I found this tape last year. This is where the perspective is going to help. In the closet at my old bedroom closet at my mom's house. This is a VHS tape. On it is, I don't know how many, and I don't know what they are, but these are the original movie reviews I did for my high school TV station back in 1999, 2000, 2001. I have not seen these in 20 years. I don't remember what any of it is, but when we hit 100K, not if, but when we hit 100K, I will have this tape digitized, and we will all watch it together. Perhaps we'll do it live. Maybe that'll be our live show for that week. We will digitize and watch this tape together. Maybe I'll bring in some friends and guests. If people, I used to listen to Howard Stern a lot, and they had this thing where they had a big auction, and they had their producer, Gary Delabate, had made a tape for one of his girlfriends called the Gary tape. And they hit a certain amount of donations, or I think they were giving him money, but it's this is subscriptions. And he played it live on the air, and they had friends and guests, etc., to just laugh at him. And he was mortified. Maybe we'll replicate that. Jeff Nicholas says, when did you go to FSU? I'm class of 05. If you were a 4-year person at FSU, then we were there exactly the same year, because I'm class of 05 too. I graduated in April of 05. So we were there at the same time, Jeff. Unless you're like one of those prodigies that went like one semester after spring of 05 and graduated in one semester. But yeah, we were classmates. Perhaps we were even at the same graduation ceremony, although they had like 8 of them at Florida State. So I'm not sure. All right, we've got several comments to go through before we end the show. So I took down the donation. I took down the donation info, because we're going to run through these and then wrap up. I'm been told to plug the likes again. So we're almost at 700 likes. So if you want to keep liking that button, keep hitting that, hit this one. You can hit that one too. That's the thing about YouTube. I don't want you to hit that one, but they've disincentivized hitting that one. So really this means the same thing. Is there any better metaphor for today's society than this and that, meaning the exact same thing? We did what?
We got over 700.
We got over 700. 721. Thank you. I'm like an ABC exec. I'm like an ABC exec here. No one be apathetic about it, but you know what? I'm not going to tell you what to do, but thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. I view them as likes. The cat hit the camera. That wasn't me. I view them as likes. I don't view them as engagement. But I appreciate it nonetheless. NPE94 says, if you're going through Ghibli, there are some very serious grounded ones like Grave of the Fireflies and The Wind Rises, which require a box of tissues. Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies, I think, is next on my list of stuff that I haven't watched. And I've been told to like clear off a day to watch that. So thank you for the warning there. Random Norwegian guy says, I'd really love if either Bill Burr or Ricky Gervais hosted the Oscars one day. That would be great, in my opinion. Oh, and hi, Dan. Love all you do. Love from, and I'm assuming that's the Norway flag there. It's very tiny, plus I'm not good with flags. Thank you, random Norwegian guy. Like I said, I think that you need somebody who can really deflate the pomposity in the room. I think that Ricky Gervais did a good job of that by and large. I was a fan of most of what he did, and I think part of it was that he didn't take it seriously, and he didn't think anyone else should either. Sir Pounce and Muffin donated $5.
Yeah, they did.
Can I have more food now? Also, what are your favorite cats in movies? I mean, right now?
I mean,
I could tell the cat is hungry, yeah.
Buddy, are you hungry?
You can have more food, Sir Pounce and Muffin, which are our cats' names, by the way, very soon. And my favorite cats in movies would be all of the cats in movies except for the cats in the movie Cats. Darren Michael Grant, thank you, Darren. Hi, Dan, huge fan of yours. In celebration of the Oscars, what is your favorite Best Picture winner of the past decade? Your reviews are great. Thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, man. Let me, this is my first Google of the day, just because they all run together, and I can never remember which year which one goes to, especially if it's like, if you give me a specific year, I can be like, oh, that one. But I can never remember which one goes. Let's see. It's not The King's Speech. It's not The Artist. It's not Argo. I didn't hate any of these movies. Probably, Parasite. Yeah, it's Parasite. I also like The Shape of Water, Moonlight, Spotlight, but Parasite would be my favorite, easily from the past decade.
Things that rhyme with I.
Yeah, IT. Anything that ends in an ITE or an IGHT. It's like an SAT suffix test. ITE or IGHT. I'm a fan of. 11 Blue says, all hail the Schmodown champion. Thank you. I love your All My Movie series. My question is, do I have any hope John Carpenter's The Thing will make an appearance on that show? I'd love to hear your opinions. Well, I'll tell you, Christian mentioned this. I had Christian Harloff on my show this week. I wanted to do The Thing last October because he's never seen it, and we were going to do it, and then we just couldn't make the scheduling work. But yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of hope that you could see The Thing on, because I love that movie. Maybe we'll just do like a Carpenter month or something. That'd be fun. CA. Oh, sorry, John James. Just saw CA. I was like, California donated $5. John James, do you think maybe Kong versus Godzilla, Mortal Kombat, etc., will get re-released whenever the day comes that things normal out for the theater business? I don't really know, because I think they may have maximized their potential. Plus, there's so many contractual things now where they have to be off HBO Max and they have to be in a certain window for a certain number of days. I don't know if we're going to see things from that recently put out in theaters, but I do think that we may see some films that came out last year. Maybe even Tenet. I could see them pushing a limited engagement again of Tenet for people that wanted to go see it, even though it's now out on home media and everything. I could see some movies coming out again in a more limited capacity. Jimmy Carter. Wow.
I know.
Mr. President, thank you. Any word on when the heck Regal is going to open back up? I don't know, President Carter, because we have a couple Regals around us that are still closed, and they haven't yet announced. They said that way back when they closed, they said that they would open back up when it made financial sense for them to do so. And let me make sure that they have not made any other announcements in the near term. I'm looking here. There's some Regal theaters that are reopening on a case-by-case basis. But some in Tallahassee, Regal Cinema's opening there. So it looks like the chain itself is not going to set a reopening date, or at least not right now, but it does seem like individual theaters are reopening. So I think it's going to be a very slow process, but they've also been very much not afraid to stay closed if they don't think that they're going to make money. My guess is that you're going to see a lot of Regal theaters open by Memorial Day, when we have A Quiet Place Part 2 opening in theaters. Stacy, thank you, Stacy. Hi, Dan and Mara. You don't have to read this. Well, we're going to. But I thought you might find it amusing that Cole has been pranking me by mixing my soda with Gatorade and taking the cardboard out of the toilet paper roll. It annoys me, but I hope it makes you chuckle. Stacy and her son Cole call in a lot on Patreon. And first of all, Cole gave us a masterclass on Kyber crystals, particularly the ones from Galaxy's Edge, what we should be looking for. and then different. What was the holocron? Was that?
Yes.
Yeah, holocrons. So Cole's been teaching us a lot. But also, Cole, be nice. Don't prank your mom. Especially like you can replace the soda with Gatorade, but don't mix the soda with Gatorade because then you have neither. You ruin both.
Well, no,
so
actually, it's okay to ruin Gatorade. That's okay.
Yeah, you can ruin Gatorade. Powerade, don't ruin. But Gatorade you can ruin. But yeah, Cole, replace it with Gatorade. Don't mix it with Gatorade. And drink the soda. Chance Strackner says, gotta always support the fellow Arkansas fam. Thank you, Chance. 501 represent. Rush Sherman, is there any chance of a movie fights reunion? Seeing you guys do movie fights over the wackiest questions was always the highlight of my week. I have given them and have been granted a standing invitation. I would love to go back on movie fights whenever they're able to do it again. I think part of it is it would be a tough virtual show to do. And the last one we did was, I think, right before things shut down last year. But if they ever do get the show back up and running again, I would love to be back on movie fights. And it's a great show to do. Corey King sent in a donation, $15. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Katz. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that. Let's see, a few more left here. Steve Diamond says, I love most of your takes. I think you're far and away one of the best reviewers. I feel like you watched Baywatch through the wrong lens. It was dumb and funny. I usually agree with you, but not here. Maybe so. I just maybe
that's one to revisit.
Yeah, maybe it's one to revisit. I wasn't a fan. I don't know, for whatever reason, it didn't hit with me, but a lot of people liked it, and that's fine. I remember The Rock gave a whole thing about, it wasn't made for critics, it was made for fans, and that's my big thing is like, if you like Baywatch, love it. That's great. We visited the set. Nick Mundy rubbed The Rock down with oil. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of good memories there with Baywatch. Andrew Feisner says, is that Patreon show and tell still going to happen? Yeah, I think so. I think probably next month we may have a chance to do it. It's been very tough to juggle, if I'm being 100% honest. It's been very tough to juggle the podcast, the YouTube channel, Patreon, and the Schmodown, which are all now hitting full steam. And so there was a show and tell that I was going to do on Patreon for this month that I think we have to push to next month. But I do still want to do that because there's some cool stuff to show off. Paul Januszewski says, can't believe I forgot to mention how much joy I derive from all my movies. I've loved every episode and watched them Wednesday, then follow up with a listen when walking my new dog. Aw. Keep up the amazing work. Any hints for upcoming episodes? Well, I announced at the end of this one, I will be doing, for May, I will be celebrating some of the biggest / best May releases of all time. So here's what I will share. It will be a blockbuster from the 80s, a blockbuster from the 90s, a blockbuster from the late 2000s, and one of the most acclaimed movies of all time, all released in the month of May. So I know that doesn't narrow down some stuff, but perhaps those are some little crumbs for you to try to guess about some of the movies that I'm doing. Brian Harrington says, pair character lifting some weights, saying,
it's like a little guide that does what it is.
Oh, is that a text description of what the? Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, pair character lifting some weights, saying, keep it up. Well, thank you, Brian, and pair character. I was just talking about a bear character in Paddington.
You have a few characters coming up.
Maxwell Harris says, pair character bowing down, saying thank you. Thank you, Maxwell. 1/4 Canadian says, Sheba dog saying good job while raising his thumb up.
That one's really cute.
So this is just like you're describing to me what the emojis are.
Paste, and that's what the copy paste description is. So that's not even me. That's the internet.
This is my favorite game ever. Just me reading descriptions of the emojis that I'm getting. Maria Hammond. Hey, Maria, how's it going? Dan, you're one of the best and kindest people on the planet. Congratulations and continued success for you and Mara. Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. Always great to see you and talk to you. Maria is one of our patrons that we get to talk to a lot. Q&As and movie clubs and study sessions. It's always great to see Maria.
I think she was in the first class as well.
I think she's part of the day ones. Yeah. Chris Hunt says, pair character stretching his arm forward, raising his thumb up. If you want to make me laugh, just send me emojis that have weird descriptions. Pardis Heju Dazen. Oh, I'm so sorry if I butchered that. Says, congrats on the first live stream, Dan. Also, so glad you are watching Demon Slayer because it is amazing. I agree with you so far. It is amazing. I was texting with Ben Goddard, who's a good friend of ours, who is a big Demon Slayer fan. And I told him, I think the literal text that I said, it was episode 2. And I texted him, I think verbatim, I said, dude's sister just kicked a demon's head off. I'm in. That he texted me back. He's a big fan too. And then I think, unless something comes in right before we wrap the show, this is going to be the last one. Jimbo donated and said, having worked with Kevin Smith in the past, what did you think of Jay and Silent Bob reboot? I've said this about Kevin Smith stuff, with very few exceptions. I have no chill when it comes to Kevin Smith, just because his movies for me growing up were like Clerks was one of the first indie movies that I saw, like true indie movies. And it opened my eyes to like this whole other world that was out there. And then in college, I was such a huge fan. I mean, he was just dead bullseye for me as far as just, you know, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back coming out and all of that. Just bullseye for me. And then as I've grown up, I've just been following his process as a filmmaker and branching off into things like Red State. And so I have no chill with Kevin Smith movies. And I think that I enjoy Jay and Silent Bob reboot because I love that universe. I love those characters. I thought that the scene with Ben Affleck was, I loved the writing in that scene, and you see how these characters have grown and developed. And so I can't claim to be very objective when it comes to Kevin Smith, but I enjoy Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and I will continue to enjoy his work right up until the point where we have to play each other in the Schmodown, and then I will destroy him.
You have one more at the bottom and then one more at the top.
One more at the bottom. All right, so let's close out with these final 2 comments. Brandy, thank you, Brandy. Fantastic show. Thank you for all you do, and can't wait to see what's next. Thank you so much, Brandy. I appreciate that. Thank you for all you do. Is that our Brandy?
Of course that's our
Okay.
Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy, for all you do. And then finally, Stacy, Stacy again. Oh wow, Stacy, this is a great one to end off. Pair character dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off to say you are amazing. I don't know why I find this so funny, but I do. Speaking of being amazing, all of you are amazing. Thank you for sending in so many Streamlabs and Superchats today.
And just engaging with us.
Yeah, engaging with us, reminding me of the importance of engagement and thumbs ups and thumbs downs, because you think I would know that, but I don't really. And really, just this was a first great live show. I'm going to look forward to doing this every week. I don't know if I'll be lucky enough every week to have the number of questions, that came in this week, but I will be very happy to talk to everybody that tunes in from week to week, cover the news, talk about stuff. That's really why I wanted to do the show as well, was not just talk about the stuff as it relates to the box office or breaking news as it happens. I will continue to do both of those, but also talk about these other stories that come up that I have a take on. You're probably going to get some, I think we've renamed them Dan stances. You'll probably get a Dan stance every once in a while, because I don't think everything's necessarily worth a rant, but it's definitely worth a stance. So you're going to get some Dan stances once in a while. Thank you to everyone.
Got some last minute love from Canada from J.A. Alexander, by the way.
J.A. Alexander, thank you very much. Was it a question or just some love from Canada? Okay. You guys are the best. Love from Canada, J.A. Alexander. Thank you, J.A. Thank you to everyone that watched and donated. If for some reason a question fell through the cracks, we'll keep track of it, and we will make sure to include it in next week's show. And yes, stay tuned. We will be back next week. I think right now we will commit to coming back at the same time next week. It's a very valid point about the new movies coming out right as the show starts on the East Coast. So we very well may move the time here and there. If we have to, maybe move the day. But next week we'll be in the same time, same place. Thank you, everybody.
Can we tease that there's going to be a special donation goal for next episode regarding cats overtaking the show? Okay,
we're going to have a special cat goal next week. As if you needed any more motivation to tune in, we're going to have a special cat goal next week. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. This is a continuing adventure here on the channel, and launching things like the channel itself and this show, and seeing all of the love and support really has meant a lot to me during a very difficult year. Looks like we're getting back to normal, and I can't wait to grow everything with everybody out there that's watching. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.